Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Fuego here.
I'm Mercer.
There's Dave.
I'm not sure if that came through. It's producer Dave.
I got my nut Dave.
Guys, we're here to do a 4-dude-strong review of Mother.
Tell your children not to, well, we can't say.
Watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because they're probably not old enough.
Yeah.
That's
It's R-rated when it wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about this movie like we normally do. We'll give our overall thoughts, talk about the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff in turn. But overall, I will say that I didn't not like the movie. But I guess what I liked about the movie is that it purposely keeps you off balance the entire time, it feels like. It's throwing things at you, and there's many anxiety-inducing points of the movie, especially if you are, a particular kind of person that's not a fan of crowds. But man, it's definitely different. So I have to say that I like it for that aspect, if nothing else. But I'm not saying there is nothing else I like, but that alone has to make me say that I like it. So,
yeah.
Fuego.
This is a movie that stuck with me big time after I watched it. And, I must admit, throughout most of it, I can't say I was really, really enjoying it, but I was just intrigued and just wondering where the hell this roller coaster of insanity was going to go. And then, near the back half of the film, once it clicks in your head what this is all a metaphor for, that's when I was just like, holy crap, man. And like my mind was blown, and the finale of this gave me the feel similar to The Fountain, the only other Aronofsky movie that he wrote and directed without anyone's assistance and not from any previous done material. So yeah, it choked me up, man.
Andrew.
I liked the movie. I didn't really know anything about it going in.
Which is better, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have any reserved expectations or anything like that. I was out there as a guy that likes things to make sense. I don't like things that operate outside of my box. This is one that forced you just outside of it, where you're uncomfortable, but not too much. I'm asking a lot of same questions. I saw a lot of patterns from the movie, and it just has you asking, what's going on, and they feed you little bits and pieces, but I was entertained all the way through to the end. Everything looked good, including the main actress.
I don't like her in much, but I thought she was really good in this.
She did a really good job. I don't know. To me, she was young for, I don't know, the portrayal, now that, hindsight's 20/20, but I don't know. I thought it was good.
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky. I mean, you should expect nothing less than the strangest thing you've ever seen every time you go to see one of his films. And the thing that really stuck out, the reason I really liked the film was, as compared to a lot of horror films that I don't necessarily like that much, I can always appreciate a film, but sometimes horror just doesn't do it for me. This felt like a different kind of horror movie in the sense that, it wasn't your typical scares, but there were definitely scares. There was gore, there was an interesting story that didn't have any answers, which is always really fun because it leads to discussion. But then the POV thing, having it be entirely from her perspective really nailed it for me, and it really helped keep you on the roller coaster with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of the film, like you were saying.
It was like
an experience rather than a film.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the most special thing about it. And we will get into the what the fucks.
Well, we're not going to spoil anything.
No spoiling?
No.
There's some what the fucks.
But well, it's a good enough segue into the story, though. So the fact that the story is told essentially from Jennifer Lawrence's perspective, and not so much, it's not POV the entire time. There are a few shots of POV, but you're with her, by her side, in front of her, behind her, whatever, the whole movie essentially, except for a couple of transitions. But that's the only time you're not. So it made for a really interesting watch because it added to the chaos of the film, and basically the story. The reason it adds to the chaos is because as she wanders through the house, you see things and you can't get a handle on them because she's just kind of wandering through sometimes getting away from these things, and you don't know the context or anything because she doesn't know the context. So it made for an interesting watch that way. But the story itself is, we start off with Jennifer Lawrence. Well, you start off with something else that makes you wonder, okay, is there a time aspect to this? And then you start off with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem living in this massive house. He's a writer that has apparently writer's block. He's a poet.
He's a poet.
And so she has essentially, apparently she moved in after there was some sort of destruction and the house had burned.
Yeah, he lost everything in a fire.
Lost everything in a fire, and so she has apparently restored the whole house on her own while he's been trying to get his writing stuff going. I guess they've been living off of his, residuals or whatever for his past writing. And so that first night, I mean, the whole thing only takes place over the course of about, 2 days total, separated by a bit of time, or maybe 3 total.
Yeah, because when I can't spoil
jump.
anything, but there's a time when she's awake for a whole day before she's like falling asleep.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I'm trying to make sure I say things without spoiling it, but
it's tough with this movie.
Yeah, the first night,
spoils it.
Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer show up, and these two completely different strangers separately they show up, and but it turns out they know each other, and then you find out a little bit about Ed Harris, that he's not in the best health, and Michelle Pfeiffer's just this enigmatic kind of lady that...
Kind of a bitch.
Yeah, kind of a bitch. And yeah, when we get to the acting, Dave, we'll talk about how you felt about those characters.
Yeah.
But anyway, then, more people start to show up, and then more people start to show up, and then people go away, and then they start to come back again. It's really odd.
Brutality, and then there's like a weird party, and then the party gets out of control. I mean, it's just
you can't get a handle on this movie. Like if
saying
you try
anything
and
really
say,
spoils it.
if any of your friends say, watch this with you and say, "Oh, I knew it was going there," they're just flat fucking lying. Because there's no anticipating where this film is going to go.
The thing that the story does so well for me is that you basically, like I said, feel like you're with Jennifer Lawrence every step of the way, and you feel as uncomfortable as she does. You feel the fact that she desperately wants to be out of this situation, but you feel like you're in zero control just like her, which is one thing the film does really, really well, is that sense of just urgency and anxiety and all the feels that she's having. You're there with her every step of the way.
He really did put you, on her shoulder, in essence, throughout the whole film. And
Andrew, what did you think of the story?
It was good. It's confusing at times, just because, like I said, you're trying to make the story make sense to you, whereas you really got to wait till the end of the movie to kind of put everything together. Maybe if you get some clues or something, you might be able to onto it. Jump to it early, but again, this is one where, like you said, even if you think you know what's going on, you probably don't really know what's going on, because it's a lot of, I don't know, I don't want to say trickery, but they like I said, I saw some patterns and stuff that kept coming up. There's no relevance to it. Like, it was just something that kept happening.
Well, there is relevance to it.
Yeah, there is relevance to it.
But I think that's also part of Aronofsky's flavor, is he likes it to be ambiguous, and he likes it to be sort of like, you can have your own interpretation of his art. He has his reasons, and whatever you see in those reasons, that's for you to enjoy. And that's one of the reasons why I like him as a filmmaker, even though some of his films are a lot weirder in essence. I talk about Pi, one of his first films, which I don't think you've seen that, right? No?
I've seen it. It's been quite a while though, but that one.
But that has the same. There's a lot of these things that he does in his films with this God subtext, and then also this sort of mental women go crazy in his films a lot. And so Jennifer Lawrence, in essence, she doesn't go crazy per se, but she has a situation that would make her go crazy. Anybody would go crazy in the situation that she's put into. And I think that's what really the film is about. Is how long can you hold on to your sanity when all of this crazy shit happens out of nowhere?
Sanity or humanity, because she is very, kind and stuff to a point until she gets pushed and things like that.
But anytime she's not kind, he gives you a perfectly good reason why she wouldn't be kind.
Right.
And so that's the thing that makes you so uncomfortable through the whole film, It's just like this was happening to you. You literally, he's like, this is what you would go through, kind of.
So what about the acting though? I am not. I think Jennifer Lawrence is fine.
Yeah.
I think she can
fine.
be really good, but she doesn't. I'm not gaga over her like a lot of people are. But I thought she did a good job here, especially if we were really feeling anxious for her as much as we were. And if we were getting caught off guard like she was, like part of that is her acting, like giving us cues and stuff like that. So you have to give credit where credit's due there. Javier Bardem has, the old, he has the old animation style of his forehead is the same level as the tip of his nose. It goes flat, straight down. They did not do him any favors on a couple of angles. He does. Well, he's always got marbles in his mouth. I mean, he did in No Country for Old Men, and that's part of his thing. But I thought he was effective in his role here. For what he got.
No, I think all the lead characters, all the name actors were really good, and then the people they got to play in the background and stuff. I mean, it was all really, really well acted. You could tell they rehearsed a lot because of all the camera movement that was going on. You could tell they had their scenes down, and he had a bunch of beautiful choices to pick from because he captured really good performances. And like, I haven't seen Ed Harris in a long time, and it was cool seeing him. And Michelle Pfeiffer, I mean, she's a wonderful actress, but these ladies got to stop doing stuff to their face, man. It doesn't move.
Yeah.
If you're an actress, you got to move your face.
Her and Gina Davis suffering from the same sort of thing.
I mean, I love you. I love you, Michelle. Call me.
Now, I have to mention Jennifer Lawrence and old J-Law here as well, because I don't really like her as an actress very much. I think she's heavily overrated, and they just kind of thrust her upon us in a lot of these
her Oscar
roles.
statue would beg to differ.
I know, but yeah, I wasn't impressed with any of those performances that she won Oscars for or was nominated for. But this in particular, this might have been the best acting that I've seen her do, at least personally for me. I was very impressed, and I mean, being along on that ride with her and stuff, and just the ability to empathize with her, and just all of that, she emoted very well, and I felt her despair in certain parts and her longing in other parts. And Bardem, everybody else, I mean, I thought all the supporting players were serviceable enough, but I mean, she shoulders the movie very, very impressively for me. And there's also a couple cameos that I thought were kind of interesting from a few people I wasn't expecting to see.
You know what's odd for me with her? Like you said, you got choked up, and Andrew, I want you to give your points too, but I just don't want to forget this. She, to me, is very good, very believable. Like, she's very genuine with her acting, for sure. But there's actors and actresses, or they're all actors. There's actors who I find myself crying with, and then there's actors who I just find myself crying. Yeah. And she's the one that I just end up watching. Yeah. And I don't get as involved when it's her as I seem to with other actors. Yeah. So I don't know if it's just a block I have with her, but she, again, so I didn't get choked up, but I did get to feel anxious. But again, I don't know how much was her and how much was just the frenetic filmmaking, which we'll get to. Andrew, your thoughts on acting?
I thought the acting was fine. Pretty much everybody across the board played their part. It wasn't, I don't know, I felt like they used some of the same actors multiple times because of the settings were different. So some of the same people I thought I saw in the background and stuff, which I thought was going to play into the overall message of the movie, but I still have yet to figure that one out.
I mean, honestly, you could even say, without spoiling anything, who knows, really, at the end, because you don't, I mean... They never give you the full answer. It's left to interpretation.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the movie is kind of left for interpretation, just because again it's more concepts, patterns, stuff like that, where it's not just spelled out for you. It's given to you on a plate. You got to put it together. So I don't know. That's again the acting. Like I said, everybody played their part. It came out pretty good.
There you go.
And jumping into the cinematography, because I mentioned frenetic camera work. I didn't mean that. What I meant was the scenes were very frenetic, and made it feel like almost the camera was moving around when it wasn't. You were following Jennifer Lawrence because she's always in frame.
Right.
But
she was doing a lot of running around at certain points.
She was.
Kind of following
but
her.
there's so much activity in the background that he just again that it made it feel like the camera was moving around a little bit more than it actually was.
Right.
But that's adding to the chaos. So the camera work did a lot of interesting stuff. It was great and normal at times when everything was fine, but then when things started to twist and when stuff started to...
She'd have her little attacks.
Yeah, little attacks.
Everything would shake, but her face would stay stabilized. But
not only that, but when she would sort of like just stare into a wall and see stuff or whatever.
Those parts were very cool.
Yeah, like the way they used the cinematography went hand in hand with the effects in this one. I thought for sure. Like there was a lot of effects that were really demonstrated by a camera pulling back and revealing and stuff like that, or I don't know. Again, I'm trying not to spoil stuff, but
there's a couple fairly trippy moments, I must admit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen Wiig showing up.
That
threw me off.
Oh, yeah, that was.
It took me out a little bit too.
Yeah, that threw me off completely. I was like, "What is she doing here?"
That was
but if you're not an
mentioned.
SNL person, I don't think that it would necessarily.
Nonetheless, I mean,
yeah, it was jarring for me.
Okay.
No.
But I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be. Maybe it's supposed to be. Hey, you think this is going to be normal? No.
Not at all.
No, it's going to be really effed up.
Well, and not only that, but she played against type big time.
By the time things really started
that's
my point.
escalating with her, I mean,
that was, that made that more impactful though. I gotta say,
yeah,
it was more impactful than if you'd gotten like a
random,
creepy girl to do it or something like that from the beginning, because then it would have tipped it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Andrew, the cameras do anything for you? Did you make love to them?
No. They made love to my eyes.
I thought, like I said, everything looked good. The single shot was a little, I don't know. To me, some people can't do the Steadicam stuff. I can't do this whole like you're 5 feet from the person at all times. It was only for like the middle end stretch of the movie where it was pretty much locked on, like I said, on her shoulder. You can't get away from her. And
we were rarely more than 5-10 feet away from Jennifer Lawrence. Rarely.
They were there the whole time. Yeah.
Which with like a Steadicam, you have a perspective, but this, it's like you're looking at somebody. It's almost like walking around holding a mirror, and you're trying to get around in a crowd. Like you're looking at yourself.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
So you're looking at a TV who's looking back at you, and you're like, what the hell am I doing?
And those are the moments that I think Cecil was implying were jarring, because I felt that they actually were jarring, in those situations where everything was just getting crazier and building on itself. And
because you had her in the middle, and that never changed, but everything around her constantly was changing, and you're trying to Where's Waldo clues to try and figure out what the hell is going on in the movie. So, and like I said, they had a long enough stretch of that where you're just kind of like, what just happened? But they do a good job of explaining it. Like I said, the cinematography was really just how they shot it. They explained things really well in the movie. So, again, everything looked good. The little nuances, like I said, the big front of the house shot where you see some stuff in depth of field where there's stuff going on in the back, but you got to pay attention to what's going on in the front too.
Beautiful house they shot this in too, man.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It was good, but
I don't think that was a real house. I'm going to put my stamp on that.
I think
that was a CGI house.
That shot was.
The interior was built.
Yeah.
So my note to the cinematography has to go. Actually, will lead us into production design. Okay. So I'll just encompass all of it in one. So you have the actors. Now you have to block the actors to move around this house and deliver their lines on certain cues. You got the camera guy. He's got to keep Jennifer Lawrence in frame, but he's also got to get Michelle Pfeiffer, who's walking around the house. So it was just beautiful coordination. And then, like I said, the production design where he designed this sort of like it was like an 8-sided house. I don't know if you guys caught that, but there were 8 distinct paths, and then that path could also go around like this. And then there were all these other rooms that we never really saw how it could possibly exist. There'd be so many rooms upstairs because the house was kind of small. So, but it was like really well designed and so that it could almost be like a stage where it's like there's so many long takes. I wouldn't say there were one takes because there were easily spots where they could digitally cut or whatever. But it felt like it was so natural the composition of the cinematography and then the acting and then the production design, like they all worked together to like really, and like the fact that she's restoring the house, so there's all these different colors and layers, and then later on in the film the house gets decrepit and then it's this whole other thing. I mean, it changes the flavor of the whole house, and the cinematography changes as the film progresses.
Oh, absolutely.
And but it stays with her. So, and Aronofsky's always had his own like weird style for every film he does. He does some weird thing, like well, maybe not weird, but you know, he's he's got a vision for something, and this film felt like, hey, here's the idea, you're her, right? Like we're gonna be with you the whole time. Conversations are gonna happen in the other room that normally in a normal film we'd cut to that while you're just standing here breathing against the wall. No, but we're gonna stay with you. But, yeah, and so yeah, and then one of the things I was going to mention about leading into the production design is there's so many, like, how do I say this? Typical paranormal activity style, like, signs, right? Yeah, things that are coming, but like we never really get to that paranormal stuff. But it was like it was enough to like kind of creep you out a little bit, and you know, the costumes and all the props. I mean, it was just like the
set changed throughout the movie.
Oh my god!
It was
so
yeah.
I mean, one part
I'll pass off.
I mean, yeah, the production design. I mean, the sets and it all played a role. And the house played a role. A specific room and floor in the house played a role, and then like a bunch more of the house played a big role. Like as things started to really ramp up towards the end.
Rebuilt it twice.
Yeah.
So she keeps rebuilding this house, like, it's crazy. And then, you know,
the aspects that keep getting messed up.
I can't say anything.
So, I don't know, did production design do anything for you guys?
Oh, well, it was just an impressively put together structure. It was almost as cyclical in design as some of the storytelling that was going on. And so, I was just impressed in the fact that it was still contained. I mean, it pretty much takes place at one place the whole time.
I could only count one shot that's outside of the house in the entire film. In the entire film.
Yeah, so. and you have to have some strong storytelling and acting for just
that
contained aspect to work. But the containment did make you feel that claustrophobia that you were mentioning. I mean, I
didn't feel claustrophobic. I felt imprisoned.
Yeah,
like
crowd control.
I didn't feel like I feel sometimes when characters have to crawl through holes under houses and shit. Like that stuff gets to me claustrophobic wise. This felt like, man, we're really trapped in this house. Like not oh my god, things are closing in, but I can't get out. Like in prison. So.
And I mean, not just even trapped in the house, but just trapped in a situation that you have no control over. So.
And then finally we got to get to the gore because it's horror. There's enough. It's not all the way horror. It's dark thriller with definite horror elements.
Yeah.
And the gore does actually. What's interesting is this is one of those instances where you can say every piece of gore plays a role in the movie.
Yes.
Oh my god.
One in particular.
One in particular, but another. Well, no, there was something that literally played a role in the story as she got more and more. But then that thing towards the end was just something that I'm not going to forget. Honestly, that scene that was the goriest, that's not something that's going to leave my mind anytime soon.
It was awful.
Because there was something that happened where there's a sound effect that punctuates something that happens on camera. It cuts away really quickly afterwards, but it happens on camera when that sound effect happens, and you can't help but wince, cringe.
There were more
away.
of those moments in this film than in anyone I've seen in a long time.
And that's why it's horror. Like that scene alone pushes it into horror for me.
Oh my god!
In the same way that Bone Tomahawk was horror.
Yeah,
you know,
it
like
doesn't really
there's
get
something
there till the third act. But once it's there, it's like damn.
Man.
But it has all those elements at the beginning. It's got like the you know, a blood-stained area that's got you know, little things that happen, like, you know, she drops a cup, you know, so, you know, she hears something in the wall, you know. There's all those like kind of like
the initial bludgeoning, you know, that happens towards the first or the second, you know, I don't know what act it
I was going to say Donald Gleason's brief part, like he was pretty crazy in this, man. I got to tell you, he sold it well.
Yeah, and then, you know, also her, I mean, it got gory. A couple parts. I mean, for sure. And I think it was all well done.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The toilet thing sticks out for me.
Yeah.
That's still not really.
That's on my what the fuck moment list.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this movie is full of what the fucks. Where you go, what the fuck, and at the end you're like, what the fuck? They didn't explain it. And you're like, oh, it's not going to be spoon-fed to me?
No. That's the hardest thing about this movie. I want to be spoon-fed.
I'm gonna have a hard time not. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go check out some other reviews and some people that are
some people are like, oh,
here's what you didn't understand.
Well, I mean, it was a polarizing film. People, like critics-wise, either loved it or hated it.
Yeah.
It received high praise. It's on a lot of best of lists, and then there's a lot of people saying it was one of the most divisive films of the year as far as horror or pretty much any cinema goes. And I can understand that.
You can't have that scene at the end without creating some divisiveness, because people that is terrifying.
Yeah,
That
concept where you're like 10 feet away from what I can't say anything. I can't spoil it, but it's horrifying.
It happens so fast that like,
and yet
you're so like helpless.
It sticks with you. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a nightmare, you're always 5 feet away from something.
Not only that,
but
but time seems to skip a little bit too. Like this thing, it disappears from view, and the next time it comes into view, only a few seconds later, it's like way farther along than it should have been. Like, so yeah, it's it's nuts. That scene alone, really, for horror fans, stick through this movie until that scene, because then at the very least you're gonna be like, yeah, that was fucked up.
Yeah. and you know, like, it had a beautiful cap, so like it gives, like, what I was gonna say about your critic note was that, you know, sometimes it's okay not to understand everything in a film, and sometimes people don't understand that, and they're like, well, I didn't understand it, so I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I liked it.
Gore.
No, the Gore. Did Gore do anything for you?
There wasn't a lot of it. So I mean, the scene everybody's talking about was pretty disturbing.
The moment she fell asleep, you knew what was coming.
Of course. And did you notice it was like a split second, like she blinked?
Because that's how it works when you go to sleep.
And yeah, there was just the little stuff at the beginning. It was very subtle. It's not like the movie's drowning in anything gory,
except
subtext, like mystery.
Yeah, and
this I wouldn't classify this as horror, but it does have elements of it. So
yeah, it's definitely more so a thriller at the end of the day. But I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah. It left its imprint on me, man.
I'm liking it more as we're talking about it too. So, yeah, I mean, that's a positive recommendation, guys.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. Jump on, just have fun.
Give it a
try.
That's
all you got to do with this film is just throw your hands
Beware
up.
the loop-de-loop at the end, though, because that'll throw your stomach. That part at the end might throw your stomach a bit. So, all right, guys. That's going to do it for our review of Darren Aronofsky's Mother.
Exclamation point.
Darren Aronofsky's Mother! Sorry. Yeah, make sure you give it a try if you can.
It's the only way you're allowed to say it.
Yeah.
Mother!
And yet it's a lowercase m, so it's like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, let us know if you've seen it, what you thought of it. Or if you haven't seen it, did this review push you towards wanting to?
And if you have seen it, when's the last time you slept?
Yeah. Does it still stick with you if you watched it in the theater and now all this time later?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
And what are your theories? Because
in the comments below. Seriously, I've got mine.
But if you are gonna leave them in the comments below, make sure you put a big capitalized spoilers at the top of it, because some people might read the comments that haven't seen it yet. So
don't be a dicky troll.
Be respectful.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Before I let you go, make sure you click the link in the description box so you can go to our merch store, get some really cool horror swag with our logos on it, as well as some really cool horror designs by some really cool horror artists on the internet. Also, make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you want to join in on the fun that's coming at you 2 days a week. Probably continuing that pace for a while in 2018. So thanks again. I'm Cecil Laird.
2 times
a day. What did I say? 2 a week? No, it's 2 times a day, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Andrew Mercer.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm Blue Today.
And remember,
stay scared.